A black Mercedes sedan crunches over the gravel driveway of a modest, secluded villa. The engine cuts. The silence that follows is heavy. Inside the house waits Field Marshal Erwin Rommel, the Desert Fox, the most famous soldier in the Third Reich, the man whose face is on postage stamps, whose name is whispered with fear by the Allies and with reverence by the German people. But the two men stepping out of the black car are not here to pay respects. They are Generals Wilhelm Burgdorf and Ernst Maisel. They come directly from Berlin, directly from the Furher, and they are not carrying medals. They are carrying a capsule of cyanide. Rommel stands in his living room. He is wearing his Afrika Korps tunic, the collar open. He is pale. He is still recovering from the severe skull fractures sustained 3 months earlier when an RAF Spitfire strafed his staff car in Normandy. He walks with a cane. He looks at the car through the window. He turns to his son, Manfred, and says quietly, "At 12 o'clock, 2 generals are coming to discuss my future employment." He knows that is a lie. We know it is a lie. Rommel greets the generals. There are no smiles, no handshakes of camaraderie. Burgdorf, a hulking man and a devout Nazi loyalist, asks to speak with the field marshal alone. They move to the study. The door clicks shut. What happens in that room is not a negotiation. It is an execution order delivered in whispers. Burgdorf does not waste time. He lays the cards on the table. The Gestapo has extracted confessions. Officers involved in the July 20th plot to assassinate Adolf Hitler have cracked under torture. They mentioned a name, Rommel. Accusations of treason, complicity in the attempt on the Führer's life. For a man like Rommel, who built his career on loyalty and tactical brilliance, the words strike harder than shrapnel. Then comes the ultimatum, a choice that is not really a choice. Option 1. Rommel can choose to defend himself. He will be arrested immediately. He will be dragged before Roland Freisler's People's Court in Berlin. It will not be a trial. It will be a screaming match. He will be humiliated publicly. He will be stripped of rank. He will be hanged by a piano wire. And most terrifying of all, his wife, Lucie, and his son, Manfred, will be arrested under the Sippenhaft laws, family liability. They will lose everything. They will likely vanish into the camps. Option 2. He can choose the soldier's way. Burgdorf produces the capsule. It acts in 3 seconds. If Rommel chooses this, there will be no trial, no scandal. The Reich will announce that the great field marshal died of his wounds from the Normandy air attack. He will be given a state funeral with full military honors. He will be buried as a hero. And most importantly, his family will be untouched. They will receive his full pension. They will live. Rommel looks at the capsule. He looks at Burgdorf. The cold precision of the offer is terrifying. The man who conquered North Africa, the man Hitler once called his favorite general, is now being liquidated like a liability in a business transaction. There is no pleading, no shouting. Rommel is a man of calculation. He analyzes the tactical situation of his own life. The enemy is no longer the British Eighth Army. The enemy is the man he swore an oath to serve. He looks at the clock. He has less than 15 minutes to say goodbye to his life. He stands up. He looks Burgdorf in the eye. "I will take the poison." He walks out of the study. He finds his wife, Lucie. His face is calm, but his eyes are dead. He takes her hands. The words he speaks next are not the words of a soldier, but of a man realizing the ultimate betrayal. "I will be dead in a quarter of an hour," he tells her. "The Führer has given me the choice between poison and the People's Court." Lucie screams. She tries to panic, but Rommel stops her. There is no time for emotion. Discipline must hold until the very end. He explains the deal. He is trading his life for her safety. It is his final tactical maneuver. He puts on his leather greatcoat. He grabs his field marshal's baton, the symbol of his supreme authority, now just a prop in a staged suicide. He walks to the door. Manfred, his son, tries to follow. Rommel stops him. "Stay here," he orders. He walks out to the black Mercedes. The villagers of Herrlingen watch. They see their hero getting into a car with generals from Berlin. They think he is going to a meeting. They do not see the poison in his pocket. They do not see the death sentence hanging in the autumn air. The car door closes. The engine starts. Rommel sits in the back seat. He does not look back at the house. As the car pulls away, heading toward a quiet stretch of road in the forest, the Desert Fox begins his final journey. But how did it come to this? How did the most celebrated soldier of the Third Reich end up in the back of a car with a cyanide capsule, forced to die by the orders of the man he helped raise to power? To understand the death, we must understand the life. We must go back to the beginning. To understand the betrayal at Herrlingen in 1944, we must understand the seduction that began 10 years earlier. Erwin Rommel was never supposed to be a field marshal. In the rigid, aristocratic hierarchy of the Prussian military, he was a nobody. He was not a von. He did not come from a lineage of junkers with estates in East Prussia. He was a schoolmaster's son from Swabia. He spoke with a broad provincial accent that made the monocled officers in Berlin sneer. But Rommel had something the aristocrats did not. He had an instinct for violence. The Italian Front, 1917, the Battle of Caporetto. This is where the legend begins. Young Lieutenant Rommel does not sit in a bunker. He leads a small detachment of mountain troops. He infiltrates deep behind Italian lines. He ignores the rulebook. He attacks from the rear, from the flanks, from above. In 50 hours, using movement and psychological warfare, he captures 150 officers, 9,000 men, and 81 guns. He loses only 6 of his own soldiers. For this impossible feat, he is awarded the Pour le Mérite, the Blue Max. It is the highest military honor in Imperial Germany, usually reserved for generals and aristocrats. Rommel wears it at his throat for the rest of his life. It is his shield against the snobbery of the general staff. But the war ends in defeat. The Kaiser falls. The Weimar Republic rises. Rommel remains in the army, a tactical genius trapped in a shrinking force. He pours his frustration and his lessons into a book, Infanterie greift, and Infantry Attacks. It is a manual on aggression. It preaches speed, deception, and leading from the front. In 1934, a copy of this book lands on the desk of the new Chancellor of Germany. Adolf Hitler reads it. He is mesmerized. In Rommel's words, Hitler sees a reflection of his own political philosophy, bold, reckless, and contemptuous of the old guard. Hitler does not want the Prussian aristocrats. He hates them. He distrusts their breeding and their hidden loyalty to the Kaiser. He wants a Volksgeneral, a people's general, someone who owes everything to the Nazi party, someone who looks like the ideal Aryan warrior, but comes from the common clay. He finds his man in Erwin Rommel. Their first meeting is electric. Rommel is charmed. Like millions of Germans, he does not see a tyrant. He sees a savior who is tearing up the humiliating Treaty of Versailles. Hitler, in turn, sees a useful tool, a soldier who will execute orders without the intellectual hesitations of the general staff. September 1939, the invasion of Poland. Rommel is not leading a panzer division yet. He has a different job. He is promoted to Major General and given command of the Führerbegleich Bataillon, Hitler's personal bodyguard unit. This is a crucial detail often overlooked. For the first weeks of the war, Rommel sleeps, eats, and travels within feet of Adolf Hitler. He sees the war not from a tank turret, but from the window of the Führer's train, the America. He watches Hitler direct the annihilation of Poland. He sees the raw power, and he falls under the spell. He writes to his wife Lucie, "The Führer is friendly to me. He is an extraordinary man. It is a seduction of proximity." Rommel believes he is witnessing the birth of a new German empire, and he has a front-row seat. He ignores the SS death squads operating behind the lines. He focuses only on the map, on the tactics, on the victory. He is a soldier, he tells himself. Politics is not his business. This willful blindness is the foundation of his tragedy. Hitler rewards this loyalty. When the campaign ends, he asks Rommel what he wants. The general staff would never give a division to an infantry officer with no tank experience, but Hitler overrules them. He gives Rommel the 7th Panzer Division. The Ghost Division is born, and with it, the debt is sealed. Rommel owes his tanks, his rank, and his glory to one man. He belongs to Hitler now. The order of battle is traditional. Infantry clears the way. Tanks support. The German High Command, the OKH, expects a methodical advance. They have planned a war of maps and logistics. Erwin Rommel throws the map out the window. He is commanding the 7th Panzer Division. He is in the lead tank, Panzer IV number 321. He is wearing goggles covered in gray dust. He is not issuing orders from a radio truck in the rear. He is directing fire with hand signals from the turret. The French defenses at the Meuse River are formidable. Concrete bunkers, heavy artillery. It should take days to breach. Rommel does it in hours. He orders his tanks to fire while moving a waste of ammunition according to the manual, but a psychological masterstroke. The noise, the speed, the violence terrifies the French defenders. They break. Rommel pushes the throttle. He drives his division deep into French territory. He moves so fast that he outruns his own supply lines. He outruns his artillery. He outruns his radio communications. For 48 hours, the German High Command in Berlin has no idea where the 7th Panzer Division is. They are panic-stricken. General Franz Halder, the Chief of Staff, calls Rommel a madman. He wants to court-martial him for insubordination. But the French have a different name for Rommel's unit. La Division Fantôme, the Ghost Division. They appear where they shouldn't be. They strike and vanish before the alarm can be raised. Rommel sleeps in the tank. He eats bread and sausage on the move. He writes letters to Lucie every night, sometimes scribbled on the back of operational orders. Dearest Lou, I am fine. We are tearing the world apart. But Rommel is doing something else during this blitzkrieg. Something that separates him from every other German general. He is carrying a Leica camera. He takes photos of his tanks crossing rivers. He poses with captured British officers. He directs his own staff to film him standing on the ridgeline, looking victorious. He understands what the old Prussian generals do not. This is not just a war of bullets. It is a war of images. He sends these rolls of film directly to Berlin. Not to the army archives, but to Joseph Goebbels, the Minister of Propaganda. Goebbels is ecstatic. He needs a hero. He needs a face that represents the new Germany. He cannot use the stiff, aristocratic generals who look down on the Nazi party. He needs Rommel, the outsider, the winner. The German newsreels, Die Deutsche Wochenschau, begin to play Rommel's footage in every cinema in the Reich. The German people see Rommel leading from the front. They see the dust, the speed, the smile. A cult of personality is born. Hitler watches the footage. He laughs at the fury of the general staff. He protects his favorite. When Halder tries to complain about Rommel's reckless risks, Hitler waves him away. To the dictator, Rommel is proof that National Socialist will is superior to traditional military education. But in the officer mess halls of Berlin, the knives are being sharpened. The other generals do not see a hero. They see a showman, a media general who fights for the cameras while they do the real work. They envy his access to Hitler. They despise his popularity. Rommel is winning the battle for France, and he is winning the battle for fame. But he is isolating himself from the only men who could protect him when the tide turns. He believes his direct line to the Führer makes him untouchable. He is wrong. He is making himself the perfect scapegoat. The campaign in France ends in total victory. Rommel is a superstar, but the desert is calling, and in the burning sands of North Africa, the myth of the desert fox will grow to a size that even Hitler begins to fear. February 1941. Tripoli, Libya. The sun is blinding. The air smells of salt, diesel, and rotting garbage. Erwin Rommel steps off the plane onto the tarmac. He has been given a new command, the Deutsches Afrika Korps, DAK. His orders from Berlin are explicit, written on paper, signed by Hitler, defend. He is to act as a blocking force to stop the British from pushing the collapsing Italian army out of North Africa. He is told to dig in. He is told to wait. Rommel looks at the map. He looks at the desert. It stretches endlessly, a flat, hard ocean of gravel and sand. There are no rivers to cross, no forests to hide in. It is a tactician's dream. It is a chessboard where movement is the only defense. He ignores the orders. Again, within weeks, he launches an offensive that stuns the British. He drives them back hundreds of miles, capturing Benghazi, pushing toward Egypt. He fights a war of velocity. He commands from his mammoth command vehicle, or from the open cockpit of his Storch reconnaissance plane, flying just meters above the tank columns. It is here, in the dust of Cyrenaica, that the desert fox is truly born. He innovates out of necessity. The German tanks are outnumbered. The British Matilda tanks have thick armor that German shells bounce off of. Rommel sees a solution where others see defeat. He takes the 88mm flak gun, an anti-aircraft weapon designed to shoot down bombers, and lowers the barrel. He points them at the British tanks. At the Battle of Hellfire Pass, British tankers watch in horror as their armor is sliced open from 2 kilometers away by high-velocity shells. It is a massacre. Rommel has changed the rules of tank warfare forever. But something else is happening in the desert. Something that separates this theater from the slaughterhouse of the Eastern Front. They call it Krieg ohne Hass, the war without hate. There are no SS Einsatzgruppen here. There are no mass executions of civilians in the empty sands. The war is fought between soldiers, tank against tank, pilot against pilot. When Hitler issues the infamous commando order demanding the immediate execution of all captured Allied commandos, Rommel reads it. He holds the paper in his hand. It is a direct order from the Führer. To disobey is treason. Rommel burns the order. He treats British prisoners with water and rations. He respects the rules of war. In the Allied mess halls, British officers toast to him. Winston Churchill stands in the House of Commons and admits, "We have a very daring and skillful opponent against us, and may I say across the havoc of war, a great general." This quote reaches Germany. Goebbels broadcasts it. Rommel is no longer just a German hero, he is a global celebrity. He is the good German. Rommel loves it. His vanity is fed by the admiration of his enemies. He believes he is fighting a chivalrous war for a glorious leader. But this is an illusion. While Rommel plays the knight in the desert, playing chess with the British Eighth Army, Hitler is using him. To Hitler, North Africa is a sideshow. A distraction to keep the British occupied while he prepares for the real war, the invasion of Russia. Rommel begs for supplies. He needs fuel. He needs tanks. He flies to Berlin. He meets Hitler. He shows him the maps. He argues that he can take Cairo, seize the Suez Canal, and cut the British Empire in half. Hitler nods. He pins diamonds to Rommel's Knight's Cross. He calls him a genius, but he gives him almost nothing. Rommel returns to the desert with a medal, but no gasoline. He begins to feel the first cracks of doubt. Not in Hitler's brilliance, he still worships the man, but in the surroundings, the general staff, the lackeys. He convinces himself that the Führer doesn't know the truth, that he is being lied to by incompetent generals. He does not realize that the cynicism starts at the top. And then, the tide turns. The Americans enter the war. The British get a new commander, Bernard Montgomery, who is just as methodical as Rommel is reckless. The supplies stop coming. The war without hate is about to become a desperate fight for survival. El Alamein is waiting. Der 23. Oktober, 1942. El Alamein, Egypt. The night sky explodes. At 9:40 p.m., 1,000 British guns open fire simultaneously. The ground shakes so violently that the German soldiers in their dugouts bleed from their ears. It is an artillery barrage on a scale never before seen in the desert. Erwin Rommel is not there. He is in a hospital in Germany, his liver failing, his body ravaged by chronic dysentery and exhaustion. But when the phone rings, he pulls the IV from his arm. He flies back to North Africa. What he finds is a graveyard. His Panzer Army Africa is running on fumes. For every tank he has, General Bernard Montgomery has 3. For every liter of fuel, the British have tons. The Royal Air Force owns the sky. The Ghost Division days are over. There is no room to maneuver. There is only a meat grinder. Rommel does the math. He is a rational soldier. He knows that to stay is suicide. To save his army, the veterans who have followed him across thousands of miles, he must retreat. He must pull back to Fuka, regroup, and live to fight another day. He sends a detailed situation report to the Führer's headquarters. He expects a rational military decision. He expects permission to withdraw. November 3. Smineservins 42. 2 p.m. A radio operator hands Rommel a piece of paper. It is a telegram from Adolf Hitler. Rommel reads it. He reads it again. He cannot believe his eyes. To Field Marshal Rommel. In your situation, there can be no other thought but to stand fast, yield not a yard of ground, and throw every gun and every man into the battle. As to your troops, you can show them no other road than that to victory or death. Signed, Adolf Hitler. Victory or death. For the first time in his life, Rommel sees the man behind the mask. This is not a military order. It is the raving of a fanatic. Hitler is asking him to sacrifice 80,000 men for a line on a map that holds no strategic value. He is asking for a meaningless martyrdom. Rommel stands in his command truck. He looks at his officers. He must be mad, he whispers. For 24 hours, the field marshal is paralyzed. The Prussian discipline ingrained in his DNA screams obey. The rational tactician in his brain screams save your men. He hesitates. And in that hesitation, the Afrika Korps is decimated. Tanks are turned into burning coffins. Infantry are mowed down by advancing Highlanders. Finally, Rommel breaks. He ignores the order. He commands the retreat. But it is too late. The army is broken, and so is Rommel's soul. He realizes, with terrifying clarity, that the Führer does not care about the soldiers. He does not care about strategy. He cares only about his own ego. The people's general realizes he is serving a monster who views German blood as a cheap currency. The retreat across Libya is a funeral march. Rommel drives in silence. He stops wearing his pour le mérite. He stops writing glowing letters about Hitler's genius. When he finally returns to Germany, he is a changed man. He is bitter, he is cynical, and he is dangerous. Because a man who has lost his God is a man looking for a new truth. But Hitler is not done with him. The propaganda machine cannot let Rommel fail. They spin the defeat as a strategic withdrawal. They keep his face on the newsreels. Rommel is reassigned. He is sent to France, to the Atlantic Wall, to wait for the invasion that everyone knows is coming. And it is there, in the quiet chateaux of France, that the shadows begin to approach him. Men in civilian clothes, men who speak in whispers about saving Germany, men who ask dangerous questions. The conspirators are circling. January 1944. The French coast. The Atlantic Wall. Goebbels calls it an impregnable fortress of concrete and steel, stretching from Norway to Spain. He claims no army can breach it. Erwin Rommel walks the beaches of Normandy. He taps the concrete with his baton. He looks at the bunkers, and he sees the truth. It is a lie. The wall is a string of pearls, with miles of empty sand in between. The guns are captured Russian and French artillery, rusting in the salt air. The troops are old men and young boys, the dregs of the Wehrmacht, many suffering from ulcers or bad hearts. Rommel is horrified. He knows the enemy he is facing. He knows the Americans will bring a storm of steel that will pulverize these thin defenses in minutes. He goes to work with a manic energy. He is trying to stop the inevitable. He orders millions of mines to be laid. He plants Rommel's asparagus wooden poles, tipped with explosives in the fields to tear apart gliders. He floods the marshes. He sleeps 4 hours a night. He is trying to build in months what should have taken years. But while he fortifies the beaches, a different kind of war is being fought in the shadows of his headquarters at La Roche-Guyon. February 1944. The mayor's office. Rommel receives a visitor, Dr. Karl Strolin, the mayor of Stuttgart, an old comrade from the First World War. They walk in the garden, away from the microphones, away from the SS guards. Strolin does not talk about mines or bunkers. He talks about the end of Germany. The war is lost, Erwin, Strolin says. Hitler is dragging us into the abyss. He will not stop until every city is rubble and every German boy is dead. Rommel listens. 2 years ago, he would have had Strolin shot for treason. Now, he stays silent. He knows it is true. The Allied bombers are turning Hamburg and Berlin into graveyards. The Russians are crushing Army Group Center. Strolin asks the question that hangs in the air like a guillotine. Are you with us? The us is the Schwarzkapelle, the Black Orchestra, a network of high-ranking officers and civilians plotting to overthrow Adolf Hitler. They need a figurehead. They need a man the German people trust. They need Rommel. Rommel is torn. He is a soldier. He swore an oath the Reichswehrheit to Hitler personally. To break it is a dishonor he cannot fathom. But he is also a patriot. He loves Germany more than he loves the party. He looks at Strolin. I believe the Führer must be removed, Rommel says carefully. But not killed. He must be arrested. He must be tried by a German court. We cannot make him a martyr. It is a naive hope. Rommel believes in a clean coup. He believes he can arrest the devil and putting him on trial. He does not understand the desperation of the men he is dealing with. He does not sign any papers. He does not attend the secret meetings in Berlin. He keeps his hands clean. But by listening, by not reporting Strolin to the Gestapo, he has crossed the line. In the eyes of the Nazi state, he is now an accomplice. Rommel returns to his maps. He is fighting two wars now, one against the Allies gathering across the Channel, and one against his own conscience. He sends a report to Hitler. It is brutal in its honesty. He writes that the war cannot be won militarily. He urges Hitler to seek a political solution peace with the West to fight the Russians. Hitler reads the report. He calls Rommel a defeatist. He throws the paper away. Rommel realizes there is no political solution. There is only the invasion, and when the first American boot hits the sand, the clock will run out for everyone. The 6th of June, 1944 is coming. The 6th of June, 1944, 6:30 a.m. The greatest invasion force in human history approaches the coast of France. Thousands of ships, 10,000 aircraft, 150,000 men. Field Marshal Rommel is not there. He is 800 kilometers away, in Herrlingen. He is handing a pair of gray suede shoes to his wife, Lucie. It is her birthday. The meteorologists had predicted a storm. They said an invasion was impossible. They were wrong. When the phone rings, the blood drains from Rommel's face. He gets into his car. He races back to France. But the drive takes hours. Hours that decide the fate of the war. When he arrives at his headquarters, he finds a tactical nightmare. The Atlantic Wall has been breached. But the real tragedy is not on the beaches. It is in the rear. The panzer divisions, the iron fist Rommel needs to throw the Allies back into the sea, are sitting idle. The great silence. General Gerd von Rundstedt wants to move the tanks. Rommel wants to move the tanks, but they cannot. The panzers are under the direct control of the OKW Hitler's high command. They cannot be released without the Führer's approval. And Adolf Hitler is asleep. He has taken sedatives. No one at the Burgdorf dares to wake him. For 10 critical hours, while American soldiers are dying on Omaha Beach and securing a foothold, the German tanks sit in the forests, engines cold, waiting for a man to wake up from a drug-induced nap. By the time Hitler wakes and releases the panzers, it is late afternoon. The sky has cleared. The Allied Air Force, the Jabos, are hunting. As the German columns finally move onto the roads, they are slaughtered from the air. Rommel fights a losing battle for the next month. He sees his army being pulverized. He drives to the front daily, risking his life to rally the men. He sees the reality of Allied air superiority. You cannot move a truck, a tank, or a motorcycle without being strafed. He sends one last ultimatum to Hitler. The troops are fighting heroically, but the unequal struggle is nearing its end. I must ask you to draw the consequences immediately. He means, end the war. Hitler replies, don't worry about the future. Focus on your front. The 17th of July, 1944. Livarot, France. Rommel is returning from the front in his open-topped Horch staff car. He is frustrated. He is exhausted. Suddenly, the spotter screams, aircraft! 2 RAF Spitfires from 602 Squadron dive out of the sun. The pilot, Charlie Fox, sees the lone staff car speeding down the tree-lined road. He lines up his sights. The cannons roar. 20mm shells tear into the Horch. The driver is hit instantly. The car swerves, hits a tree stump, and flips over. Rommel is thrown from the vehicle. He hits the pavement with sickening force. His skull is fractured in 3 places. His left eye is swollen shut. Glass shards are embedded in his face. He lies unconscious on the French asphalt. The Desert Fox is out of the war. He is rushed to a Luftwaffe hospital. He survives, barely. He is moved back home to Herrlingen to recover. But while he lies in a coma, the bomb in Berlin goes off. The 20th of July, 1944. Claus von Stauffenberg places a briefcase under Hitler's map table. The explosion shatters the wolf's lair. Hitler survives. The paranoia explodes. The Gestapo begins the purge. They torture Stauffenberg's associates. One of them, General Karl Heinrich von Stülpnagel, screams a name while delirious under anesthesia after a failed suicide attempt. Rommel. The Gestapo pauses. They check their files. They find the reports from Dr. Strolin. They connect the dots. The hero of the Reich is lying in his bed with a broken head. And now the hunters are coming for him. August 1944, Prinz Albrecht, Straße 8, Berlin. The basement of the Gestapo headquarters smells of bleach, sweat, and fear. This is where the truth is extracted, one fingernail at a time. Lieutenant Colonel Caesar von Hofacker is strapped to a chair. He is a key conspirator in the July 20 plot. He has held out for days, but everyone breaks eventually. Under the brutal methods of the SS, Hofacker screams a sentence that seals the fate of a field marshal. "I spoke with Rommel," he said. "Tell the people in Berlin they can count on me." The stenographer types it down. The report is rushed upstairs to Ernst Kaltenbrunner, the chief of the RSHA. He takes it directly to the Wolf's Lair. Adolf Hitler reads the transcript. He does not rage. He goes very quiet. This is not just a betrayal. It is a political catastrophe. If it were any other general, Hitler would have them dragged before a firing squad immediately. But this is Rommel, the poster boy of the Third Reich, the man Hitler himself created. To reveal that Rommel is a traitor would be to admit that the war is a lie. It would destroy the morale of the Wehrmacht. It would tell the German people that even their greatest hero has lost faith in the Führer. Hitler makes a cold calculation. Rommel must die, but the legend must survive. The 4th of October 1944. Berlin. A secret tribunal is convened. It is called the Ehrenhof, the Court of Military Honor. Its purpose is not justice. It is a bureaucratic formality to strip officers of their rank so they can be handed over to the People's Court for execution. Sitting at the table are Field Marshal Gerd von Rundstedt and General Heinz Guderian. Men who know Rommel. Men who have fought beside him. They are presented with the evidence Hofacker's confession and a memo from Dr. Strolin. Rommel is not there to defend himself. He is not even informed the trial is happening. General Wilhelm Keitel, the chief of the OKW and Hitler's supreme lackey, reads the accusation. He demands Rommel's expulsion from the army. Rundstedt and Guderian look at the papers. They know the game. If they refuse, they might be next in the basement at Prinz Albrechtstrasse. They vote guilty. With that vote, Erwin Rommel is no longer a field marshal of the Wehrmacht. He is a civilian. He has lost his legal immunity. He is now property of the Gestapo. Der 7. Oktober 1944, Herrlingen. Rommel receives a summons. He is ordered to report to Berlin for a special conference. Rommel is recovering, but his mind is sharp. He knows what Berlin means. It means a cell. It means a show trial. He declines. He cites his medical condition. "My doctors do not permit me to travel," he replies. It is his last act of defiance. He is forcing Hitler's hand. He will not walk into the trap. If they want him, they will have to come and get him. Hitler realizes the trap has failed. He switches to plan B. He calls General Burgdorf. He gives him the cyanide capsule. He gives him the script. Go to Herrlingen. Offer him the choice. Dignity or disgrace. The stage is set for the final act. The black Mercedes is fueled. The generals check their uniforms. The machinery of the state is moving to crush the man who once believed he was its favorite son. In the villa at Herrlingen, Rommel sits in his garden. He watches the leaves fall. He knows the end is near. He tells his son, Manfred. The sky over Germany has turned very dark. He does not know that the darkness is already pulling into his driveway. The 14th of October, 1944, 12:25 p.m. The black Mercedes pulls over on a quiet country road just a few miles from the villa. It is a spot chosen for its seclusion. Generals Burgdorf and Maisel step out of the car. They walk a few paces away, their backs turned to the vehicle. They light cigarettes. They wait. Inside the car, Erwin Rommel sits alone in the back seat. The driver, SS Master Sergeant Heinrich Deuss, watches in the rearview mirror. Rommel does not hesitate. He does not cry. He is a soldier executing his final operational order. He reaches into his pocket. He takes out the glass ampule. He puts it in his mouth. He bites down. Cyanide is not a peaceful way to die. It is a chemical suffocation. It shuts down the body's ability to process oxygen. Rommel convulses. His face contorts. He slumps forward. His field marshal's cap falls off his head. The baton drops from his hand to the floor of the car. It takes less than 10 seconds. Deuce signals the generals. They return to the car. They look at the body. Burgdorf nods. It worked fast, he says. They drive the corpse to the hospital in Ulm. The doctors rush out, but Burgdorf blocks them. Do not touch the body, he orders. There will be no autopsy. The official statement is drafted before the body is even cold. Field Marshal Rommel has died of a cerebral embolism, a complication from his severe wounds suffered in Normandy. The lie is broadcast to the nation. Germany weeps. The invincible hero is gone. The 18th of October, 1944. Ulm. The state funeral. It is a masterpiece of Nazi theater. The town hall is draped in massive swastika banners. The coffin is placed on a pedestal, covered in the Reich flag. A steel helmet and his sword rest on top. Adolf Hitler does not attend. He is too cowardly to look at the widow. He sends Field Marshal Gerd von Rundstedt to represent him. Rundstedt stands at the podium. He looks out at the sea of uniforms. He reads the eulogy written by Joseph Goebbels. The words act as a final insult to the dead man. His heart, Rundstedt booms into the microphone, belonged to the Führer. He praises Rommel's unshakable belief in the ultimate victory. He calls him a perfect National Socialist. The camera pans to the front row. Lucie Rommel stands there. She is covered in a heavy black veil. Beside her is Manfred, wearing his Luftwaffe anti-aircraft uniform. They are the only two people in the hall who know the truth. They are surrounded by the murderers. General Burgdorf is there, standing at attention, looking solemn. The man who handed Rommel the poison is now mourning him. Lucie does not scream. She does not spit in their faces. She plays her part. Because the deal was clear. Silence for safety. If she speaks, Manfred dies. If she speaks, the pension stops. If she speaks, they disappear. So she accepts the condolences. She shakes the hands of the men who killed her husband. She accepts the wreath sent by Hitler. It is a scene of grotesque irony. The Third Reich is celebrating the man it just executed. They are using his corpse to prop up the crumbling morale of a dying nation. Rommel is carried out to the sound of Wagner. He is buried in a nearby cemetery. The desert fox is laid to rest. The secret is buried with him. Or so they think. But the war is ending. The Allies are crossing the Rhine. The Russians are at the Oder. The 1,000-year Reich has months to live. And soon, the men who stood by that grave, Burgdorf, Keitel, Hitler, will have to face their own endings. Manfred Rommel walks away from the grave. He makes a silent vow. He will survive this war, and when the guns stop firing, he will tell the world what really happened in the back of that black Mercedes. The 1st of May, 1945. The Berlin bunker. The 1,000-year Reich has been reduced to a few damp concrete rooms under the Chancellery garden. Above, the Red Army is burning Berlin. In the mess hall of the Führer bunker, General Wilhelm Burgdorf, the man who handed Rommel the poison, the man who blocked the doctors from the car, sits at a table. He is drunk. Hitler is dead. Goebbels is dead. The game is over. Burgdorf pulls out his service pistol. He puts the barrel to his temple. He pulls the trigger. There is no state funeral for him, no eulogy, just a body slumped over a table in a tomb of his own making. The men who murdered Erwin Rommel ultimately died by the same hand that signed Rommel's death warrant, the madness of the Nazi regime, the breaking of the silence. Days later, the war in Europe ends. The silence that Lucie and Manfred Rommel were forced to keep is finally broken. Manfred, now a prisoner of war held by the French, tells his interrogators the truth. My father did not die of a stroke. He was murdered. At first, the Allies are skeptical. The Rommel legend, the loyal Nazi Superman, was so effective that even his enemies believed it. But then the testimony comes out. The other conspirators speak. The details of the Black Mercedes, the ultimatum, and the cyanide are revealed to a stunned world. The Nuremberg trials confirm it. Keitel, facing the hangman's noose, admits the order came from Hitler. The German people are devastated. They realize that the regime didn't just kill its enemies, it devoured its own children. Rommel wasn't a casualty of war. He was a casualty of the gangster state he helped build. The complex legacy. Today, Erwin Rommel rests in a quiet grave in Herrlingen. He is the only field marshal of the Third Reich who still has a museum dedicated to him. Veterans of the Afrika Korps and even British veterans of the 8th Army used to gather at his graveside. But his legacy is a scar, not a trophy. Rommel was not a saint. He was a man who served a tyrant for too long. He was blinded by ambition and the seduction of power. He led Hitler's bodyguards. He facilitated the rise of a monster. His tragedy is the tragedy of the German soldier. He realized the truth too late. He found his conscience only when the war was already lost. He was a tactical genius, but a strategic fool. He mastered the art of war, but failed the test of politics until the very end. Conclusion. The story of Erwin Rommel is not just about tanks and desert warfare. It is a warning. It teaches us that brilliance without moral compass is dangerous. It teaches us that loyalty to a person, rather than to a principle, is a suicide pact. Rommel chose to save his family over his life. In that final car ride, stripped of his tanks, his medals, and his armies, he fought his hardest battle. He faced the ultimate fear alone. And in that final act of sacrifice, the desert fox finally stopped running.